Hello everyone! Since Valentine's Day is getting here very quickly, I thought I would do a video sharing all of my romantic reads. So it's no secret I kind of like books with romance in them. That's just my thing. I also really like fantasy. I like sci-fi too, but I also love romance. I think at heart, I am a romantic junkie. I just love romance. I feel bad for my husband. I just wanted to share some of my favorite romantic books since it is the season, since Valentine's Day is so quickly approaching. I just want to preface this by saying all the books I'm going to talk about today are adult books, whether they be like adult literary fiction, adult chick lit, adult romance. They just follow under the adult kind of romance genre. So I think I have either 8 or 9 books to share with you. They are some of my favorite romantic reads. So in case you're into that genre, I would highly recommend checking any one of these out because they're all good. And I'm reading a whole bunch of new ones this month, so there's a lot I wanted to include, but I haven't read them quite yet, so I didn't feel like I could include them. So maybe I'll do an updated version of this very soon because I read romance books all the time. The first couple I want to share with you get a lot of love on BookTube, so they're not new. So you're gonna be like, oh, I already know about those. But either way, in case you haven't, here they are. But they are The Hating Game by Sally Thorne and The Kiss Quotient by Helen Hoang. The Hating Game I read a couple years ago and fell in love with. If you're a big fan of the hate to love trope, I would highly recommend picking up this book. I'm a huge fan of that trope. It might be one of my favorite all-time romantic type of tropes because I just love reading it. This is all about these two co-workers named Lucy and Josh, and they both work for like co-CEOs of like this publishing company, and they're the assistants to them, and their company is merging, and basically there's going to be eventually one CEO and then only like one assistant. So they are both kind of competing for the same job. They both kind of hate each other, and then as the book goes on, of course feelings come up and romance happens, and it's very steamy, very good. I loved it, would highly recommend it. I am rereading this right now and I'm having the same feelings I did the first time I read it. So in case you just love romance and love the hate to love romance trope, this one is right up your alley. The Kiss Quotient by Helen Hoang is also equally an amazing romantic read. This follows our main character Stella, who has Asperger's, and she doesn't really know how to navigate the world socially nor romantically. She decides to hire a male escort named Michael to kind of teach her the ropes of how to do things in the bedroom and also how to be in a relationship and things like that. You can guess where the plot is going to go from there. This one is definitely much more steamier than The Hating Game. They both have scenes in them, but this one very much so. So in case you are wary about that or you're onto that, I would maybe stay clear of this book, but in case you're into that, I would highly recommend this book. I loved also the fact that it touched on ASD, of the autism spectrum disorder, because that's a very near and dear subject to my heart, and I love that we're getting more awareness about that. But overall, the love interest was amazing, the romance was amazing, everything about this book was amazing. Would highly recommend it. Next up is a book I don't hear nearly enough about. I feel like it's kind of a diamond in a rough book, like very underrated, and I feel like a lot of people should read it, and that is The Simple Wild by Kate Tucker. Kate Tucker is a new adult author, and I have read, I want to say 3 or 4 of her books, and some of them are hits for me, some of them are misses. This one I really enjoyed, and it also takes place in Alaska. I have this thing for books in Alaska. I don't know why, I just do. It's all about this girl named Kala who is very materialistic, very sure of herself, and she's into designer things and into hanging out with her girlfriends, and then she learns that her father, that she's never really known ever, is actually dying, and he lives in Alaska and he owns like this charter pilot company, and she decides to go there and visit him to learn more about her dad, and there she grows, and she also meets a very rugged and handsome pilot. And also, again, this is a great hate to love trope because these characters first meet and they really despise each other, but eventually over time the hearts soften and feelings emerge. And I really enjoyed this one because I wasn't a big fan of the main character at first. Like Kala, like I said, is very materialistic. Over the course of the book, you see her kind of opening up and trying to be a little less materialistic, a little less self-involved. So I did enjoy her character growth, and I also thought the romance was equally amazing. I mean, a rugged pilot in Alaska, what more could you want? Highly recommend this one. Next up, one of my favorite romantic authors is Christina Lauren. This is actually 2 authors comprised into one. Christina Lauren, you get the gist. And I have read, I want to say like 5 or 6 of their books. A couple of them I don't love, but the majority of them I do really like. These 2, hands down, are my favorite books by them, and they're both really different. Like, I'd say if you want more serious, kind of enthralling love story that, you know, takes place over time and is very, you know, like it escalates and things like that, this is a great book. If you're really into the cutesy, just romantic type, I would highly recommend this one. Josh and Hazel's Guide to Not Dating is very cutesy, adorable. If you love fluffy books, I would highly recommend checking this one out. This follows, you guessed it, Josh and Hazel, and they went to college together, but they never really were super close, and they reconnect one day years later. They decide to set each other up on lots of dates because they know that they're not compatible, so they're like, why not help out a friend? And so they set up each other on these dates, and they go on like a double date together, and all the dates end up wrong, and somehow Josh and Hazel end up going home together, and they get really close, and they bond. And of course, as always with romance books, you can guess where the plot is going. I adored it, but essentially Hazel is exactly like Jessica Day from New Girl. So if you're in a New Girl, highly recommend it. Just really adorable and cute. It will make you smile throughout the entirety of it. Meanwhile, on the other hand, you have Love and Other Words, which I find a much more serious romantic book. Like, this one takes place over a several period of time. You get glimpses into the past, and there's this epic love story that's unfolding, and it's much more drama filled, I guess you could say. It follows Macy, and Macy is now, she's doing really good in her life. She's a pediatric resident at a hospital. She's engaged to this older and very secure man, and she's feeling like things are finally going her way. Then she runs into her old boyfriend Elliot, and all of these feelings emerge. Her and Elliot had this really epic love story when they were younger, but something really big happened that really set them apart, and now that she's seeing him again, all these feelings are resurfacing, and they're starting to spend more time together, and she's thinking, is she going in the right direction marrying this guy when she's so clearly still in love with Elliot? So this book, like I said, alternates between present and past. So you get the past of when her and Elliot met and how they fell in love, and then you get the present now of what she's doing in her life and things like that. I really loved it. It's definitely a book that might make you cry. It didn't make me cry, but there was just lots of times where I was like, this is so, you know, kind of sad and epic, and just that epic romance and love story. So yeah, you have the same author that has two vast different books. So if you want fluffier, lighter love, check out this one. If you want some more epic and dramatic love, check out this one. The next book I want to recommend to you may look like a Christmas read, but I don't think it is. I think it could be, but it's all year round. As One Day in December by Josie Silver. I read this in December, but I mean, I think the basis of this book, it starts out in December, and actually it spans 10 years in the entire book. So I'd say it's good to read in Christmas, but you don't have to read it in Christmas. Nothing about it is like overly Christmassy. This book is all about this girl named Lori who is going home one night from work, and she's on a double-decker bus, and the bus stops at a bus stop, and she locks eyes with this guy at the bus stop, and instantly they connect. They just look at each other. He tries to get on the bus, but the bus goes away, and she spends the year after that trying to find this mysterious bus man, wondering where he has went. And then one day at a party, her best friend and roommate introduces her to her new boyfriend Jack, who is the guy from the bus stop. So Lori has to quickly put that in the back of her mind to be supportive of her best friend and new boyfriend, and it's all about their relationship going from there. This does follow both Lori and Jack, and it spans, like I said, 10 years. I say with all these books that I'm talking about today, this one in particular could be a great chick flick. Like, this could be like kind of When Harry Met Sally type of vibes. That's the vibe I got from it while reading it. I adored it. It was very much, I fell in love with this book so quickly. So I would highly recommend it. Like I said, the cover looks so Christmassy. You're like, oh, I have to store it on my shelf for December. You don't have to, just because the title says December. It has, you know, it talks about every season and every holiday really, but it does have an emphasis on Christmas, but I don't think necessarily that it's a Christmas read, but it is a great romantic read. Next up, I want to talk about a couple books from one of my favorite authors, and that is Taylor Jenkins Reid. So I love all of Taylor Jenkins Reid, but two of them in particular really strike me as kind of romantic books. The other ones of hers have romance elements in them, but I don't necessarily classify them as like romantic. These two, however, I really think of like kind of chick-litty, kind of romantic reads. This one in particular is a very kind of sad romantic book, and that is One True Love. So this book follows a girl named Emma and her high school sweetheart Jessie fall in love, obviously because they're high school sweethearts, and they marry and they move and they have this really great life. And Jessie is like a cinematographer for a company, and one day he is going on a trip with his company to produce or do something with a movie, and and basically their helicopter crashes and Jesse is nowhere to be found, so he is presumed dead. Obviously Emma is very brokenhearted over this because they were only married a year when this happened, so she moves home all the way to Massachusetts, I believe. Forgive me if I pronounced that wrong. I have a hard time pronouncing that state. And she kind of picks up the pieces of her life. She works at her family's bookstore, she gets into a groove of a lot of things, and then she runs into an old family friend named Sam, and her and Sam fall in love, which she wasn't expecting, and her and Sam get engaged. And then as soon as that happens, who should call her but Jesse? He is actually alive, and he's been alive this whole time and now found his way back home. So Jesse comes home, and obviously we have this big love triangle going on between Emma, Sam, and Jesse, and who should she choose? Now, Emma is definitely a very flawed character in this book. Like, after reading it, I initially loved it, and then after hearing a lot of reviews on it, I'm like, oh, Emma's not the best when it comes to her decision making and things like that. But overall, it's very romantic because you're definitely going to root for one guy over the other. You're definitely going to have feelings about what Emma should do, but I really enjoyed it. It's a tale of love, and can you be in love with multiple people at the same time? Can you find the love of your life twice? Things like that. I really enjoyed it. So it's definitely a sadder type of romantic book, I would say. And on the other hand, we have Maybe Another Life, also by Taylor Jenkins Reid. It follows Hannah, and this book is very interesting in the fact of it's about the paths that you take in life. So Hannah basically moves home to California after, I think she's like 28, and she's not doing so great in her life, so she moves back home to California. And on the night she moves back home, she goes out to like kind of a bar to have a party, a homecoming party, and one of her old boyfriends comes in, Ethan, and they're chatting the whole night. And at the end of the night, Ethan's like, hey, do you want to come home with me? And that is where the book takes a fork in the road. So half the book, or alternating chapters I should say, are what Hannah's life would be like if she had went home with Ethan that night, and the other alternating chapters are if she would have said no and went her separate way. So this is like you're getting two different lives, if you will. The life she would have had if she would have said yes that night to going home with Ethan, and the life she would have if she said no. So in this book, like the other one I just talked about, you're definitely going to be rooting for one love interest over the other. You're definitely going to be rooting for one life over the other, and how Taylor Jenkins Reid weaves them all together is just amazing. I love this one. Definitely one of my favorites by her, but I think it's romantic. Each path in this book has equal romantic parts in it, and I loved it so much. So there you have it. Those are my romantic reading recommendations. I hope you enjoy this video, and I hope you have a great Valentine's Day, whether you are in a relationship or not. It could be a great Valentine's Day. Take it from me, who doesn't really celebrate it at all, even though I'm like a super big romantic. I understand life. I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.